I'll give a quick overview really quick of, I have my Bullet engine installed. The smart engine braking machine comes with the head, which has a built-in heater and also built-in piece here that attaches the glow igniter to a starter right there, so that'll start on its own as well. So the head is just what comes with the engine, and then also it will come with a flywheel with a little magnet here. This magnet adjusts with the RPM sensor, so this is how it detects the top dead center, and it'll make sure that it's at bottom dead center. But right before you fire it up, it'll set it right to there, and then it'll fire it up. That way it has a full cycle of spinning. You know, when the engine's new, it's really tight, so that helps it get started easier and avoids it sticking at the top dead center. As far as different engines, you know, some of them are a little bit deeper in the back, so this kind of exhaust box here can move forward and back to adjust for any engine. It also has two different exhaust gasket size adapters for pretty much fit all the different engines that are out there. It's got the small fuel tank up here, a large fuel tank in the back, and it's got the exhaust coming out. Use your own exhaust. I have a little rubber adapter here to kind of direct the flow, the exhaust flow out, and this is the load that you can set with this M5 nut here. So however much load you want to have on the clutch. And in here is all the different programs you can do. You can set it up how you want to, and I want to show you how to set the starter rubber gap. So the flywheel gap, basically where the flywheel touches the starter rubber as it comes up to start the engine. So all you do is you hold the enter and the up button at the same time. Goes to CF, and it gives a little number here. That's the position that it's at. So that's kind of tight right now. So I'm going to go down. What you want is basically just after it feels loose, you click it a few more times higher, and that is when it starts to engage. You don't want it too tight. It'll burn up your starter wheel too quickly, create too much undue stress. So right there, it's got good tension, not too much, feels about right. So that's where I'm going to leave it. Press enter to save it, and that's how you set your starter rubber gap. Right now we're pumping the fuel. Got my RC Pro race gas, pumping it into the tank over here. Let it fill up about 3/4, because there's a little air vent on the top of it. That looks about good, so we'll stop that. A little cheat sheet of how the different modes work. So this is the pre-programmed stuff, and you can change all this. So you can see mode 1, engine starts at 90 degrees, which is 194 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it'll run, it wants the idle to be right around 8,000 RPMs, plus or minus 500 RPM. And you adjust that with the little screwdriver. And so you'll see on your screen over here, it'll say the speed, it'll have the RPMs running. And so you adjust it to get it right around that 8,000 range, so that that's where it's happy at. And then let it go through its cycle. And you can see the cycle time is 15 minutes. It'll do 4 of its own cycles within this mode. And there's a cooling period of 3 minutes once the engine reaches 40 degrees Celsius again. And you can see it'll pull throttle at every minute mark. It'll do about 30 data points of throttle, is how I like to say it, but that's how far the throttle will pull, and that'll be a cycle. And it'll shut off, cool down, start up again, and do it again. Now you can see if the engine, if it's set too lean, if it goes over 95 degrees Celsius, the fan will come on. If it is too rich potentially and it keeps dropping below temperature, the heater will continually come on and help it stay at the temperature. So you can see the range that it's trying to stay in was between 88 and 95 Celsius. Now, if the RPMs are too high, if the idle's too high, or when it pulls throttle, if it's too lean and it revs up really quick and it goes above 12,000 RPMs, it'll shut off. It'll turn off the engine. It also has things to kind of help do that as well, where same way that it shuts the engine off at the end, the the little exhaust box here, it'll start closing this a little bit if the engine's idling too high to try to keep the RPMs in the correct range. So it'll try to help you there as well. Then you can see once you've done your 4 cycles of mode 1, you can go into mode 2, and it has a little bit higher of an idling RPM, a little bit higher of a high RPM where it'll shut the engine off if it goes too high. Right now we're in manual mode. I want to get started. I want to put it into mode number 1. So what we're going to do here is hold down the mode key. It'll start to flash. Press up, mode 1, press enter. Mode 1 will now begin. You'll see the light come on here. The heater is now on. So we'll be able to watch the temperature start to climb in a minute here. It's dropping right now because I had it up to temp a minute ago. But there we go. Now we're going to start climbing. And that's going to go up to 90 degrees Celsius, which is approximately 194 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, there's a head heater in here. Now I'm in my Ohio spring right now. It's only 50 degrees, so I'm going to shut the lid to help it out, heat it up a little quicker. All right, we're still in mode 1. Temperature is continuing to rise. We're waiting for it to reach 90 degrees Celsius before the next step happens. I have taken off the pressure line here, this one, and blown into it really hard, which helped feed into the little tank up here. So making sure all this is open, and this has a little clunk in it. So all that is ready to go. Here we are approaching the moment of truth. 90 degrees Celsius is what we're looking for. That's when all the action starts to happen. Now this is always interesting this first time because, you know, anytime you start up an engine for the first time, you're hoping that the tune is manageable. Normally they have the idle set a little bit high. So that's all stuff we're gonna have to work on right away. So I'm at the ready as we watch it all happen. One issue I do have out here today is it's kind of cool. It's low 50s. So when I have the door open, it cools it off a little too quick. So I'm sure the heater's gonna stay on once I do that, but we'll be able to show you all that here in a moment. So moment of truth is coming. We're gonna hope it fires up the first time, but I did want to show you guys this, and that way, that first time you fire up, and we'll see what kind of things we run into here, or if it's just all smooth sailing. So the countdown has begun. See if it all works. See if I've done something wrong. Okay, I'm gonna lift the lid. It's all engaging. Just turn the flywheel here to get it to bottom dead center. Low igniter's on. And it fired up. Wow. You see our RPM sensor is about 5,000. Temperature is starting to drop because it's pretty low. Now it's also applying its own throttle right now. It's going to start to try to bring up the RPMs by itself by pulling a little bit more throttle. So I'm pretty excited that that thing fired the first time and sounds pretty good. I'm going to help it out a little bit, bump the idle a little. So you're up to 6,000. Now if you remember our mode 1, its operating range is in the 8,000 RPM range. So it's not going to start the time until it gets within 500 RPMs of 8,000. So we can watch that. Now it's pulling a little bit more throttle now, trying to get that RPM higher. So I'm again going to help it a little bit. I'm going to lean the bottom a little. All right. There we got a little more there. Right now, most of what this is doing, as far as the speed being a little high, the RPMs, is because the throttle's pulled a little too far. Because it was trying to help it out a little bit. So it's going to start coming down right now. So as long as I'm staying under 12,000, it'll keep running hopefully. It's starting to find that medium spot where it's right where it wants to idle at. You see right there was a little bit of a throttle input, I think. So RPMs are 8 to 9,000. It's going to keep dropping that extra throttle that it applied little by little to get it in that range that it's looking for. You can see the timer has started now. This is cycle 1 of 4 of mode 1. You can see the temperature is a little lower. It's below 88, and thus the heater is on right now. So you can see that the throttle has dropped now from 20 down to 5. And that's kind of just modulating that RPM range. So I'm going to close the door now, let it do its thing. Let it purr like a kitten. We'll watch the temperature start coming up again as the heater's on. And again, the heater just turned off because we're back to 90 degrees. So now we're going to be able to watch it and kind of see. There you go. That was a throttle input, a really easy throttle input to start out. About every minute, so that was at the 13-minute mark to go. Now we can kind of watch to see what the tune is doing as far as holding temperature. So, like, how this thing is set up is it wants to have that temperature in that 89 to 94 range. All right, here we go. We are completing the time here. We got 30 seconds left of this mode 1, cycle 1 of 4. See the temperature hovering right around that 90 Celsius mark. Still going good. Everything's been smooth. And we're going to watch how the whole shut off and cool down program works here in about 10 seconds. The final countdown. All right. 5 seconds. We're going to watch here. It's going to close the exhaust port back here. Gives a quick throttle to clear it out. It closes the exhaust port, shuts off the engine, puts the engine, it checks where the top dead center is, moves it away, and the fan turns on. We're going to cool it off. We're going to watch this temperature drop. Once it gets below 40 degrees Celsius, 3-minute timer will start, and it basically just stays cool for that 3 minutes with the fan going. And then it'll start the cycle over again. It'll start cycle 2, and we'll be on our way. Here we are approaching the 40 degrees Celsius mark, and we're just going to witness the timer starting once that happens. There we go. 180 seconds to go. All right, we are approaching the end of the cooling session here. 3 minutes is just about up. You can see the engine's down to 21C now. That's because it's very cold out here. It's Ohio spring, you never know what you're going to get. So cooling is done, fan shuts off, heater turns on, and this will start going up again in just a moment. And that's your cycle. So basically we've gone through one cycle. You can see now we're on cycle 2 of 4 on mode 1. It'll heat back up, fire back up, tune should be good. And now it's when you can kind of relax a little bit more. You know, it's always good to come back and check on it here and there. Don't leave it totally unattended, but you can definitely be doing other things while it's breaking in that perfect engine for you guys. So thanks for watching this. Sorry it's a little choppy, but just wanted to get something out there so you guys could check it out and see what it's all about. So this is the Smart Engine Braking Machine, artificial intelligence at its finest. And if you're in the USA, lutzrc.com, have them on there. And otherwise, they have distributors all over the world. So check out their Facebook page and get yours on order.